All right, everybody, happy Thursday. Mr. Plog here in the apartment today, and we are going to continue what we've been learning about this week. So we first started learning on Monday about maps and what we need for not only determining direction, but also the components that make up a good quality map, right? We're going back to totals: title, orientation, date, author, legend, and scale, okay? And obviously we know our directions: northeast, southwest. Never eat soggy waffles. Although, like I've always told you, I think soggy waffles are usually great because they're soggy with syrup, but that's a whole nother story. So we moved in later on in the week, Tuesday and Wednesday. We talked about latitude and longitude, and we'll get into that in a second. Now, what we're going to do is when we're going through this video today, we're going to go through PowerPoint really quickly. And then I'm actually going to go onto a document camera here and show you exactly what you can do to find the latitude and longitude coordinates. So you can find the location of any place, provided that you see it on a map and that it has those lines on it, okay? So why don't we just really quickly go to sharing the screen and pop into our warm-up for today. So we have Thursday, September 17th, and your warm-up is going to be asking you about, I believe, something to do with what kind of vacation you would like. But go ahead and check into that. It has nothing to do with content, so all I'm asking is that you give your honest opinion, okay? Other than that, starting at 4 o'clock today, we're going to have our second weekly assessment posted, right? And unlike last week, this one's actually going to be based off of social studies content that we've learned in class. And if you've kept up with your exit tickets, I think you'll be pleasantly surprised how well you end up doing. Wink. All right, let's get going forward into this PowerPoint, and let's waste no more time. I know I saw Layla pop up in the background. She'll do that from time to time. All right, so before we get into talking about latitude and longitude again, I just want to talk about there are two different types of location that you can try to find. One is called relative location, and I call it an inexact guess as to where something is in relation to something else. You'll usually hear this when you are going to someone's house, let's say, and you've never been there before. And you ask them, well, where is it? And they'll find another place and then say, oh, it's near that, or it's across the street from there, or it's a block away from this. So as you all know, a great example is, for me, my apartment building is right across the street from the Best Buy headquarters, right? I'm taking my location and I'm comparing it to something else. Now, an absolute location is what we're going to deal with today, and that is the precise, accurate location in the world. And how do we find it? We find it through latitude and longitude. So just a really quick recap for latitude. Remember, the equator is splitting the world in half, north and south. And for longitude, we have the prime meridian / international dateline on the other side of the world that is splitting the world in half, east to west. Okay, and then here's just a quick reminder. Remember, when we split the world in half, we call those hemispheres, because you are, well, hemi means half, and if you're cutting a sphere in half, that would make sense, right? So the equator is going to create the northern and southern hemisphere, and then the prime meridian / international dateline on the other side is going to create the eastern and the western hemispheres. Okay, so to find your exact location on a map, you need to determine which latitude line and longitude line meet where you're standing. Now, we can do this on a PowerPoint, but I think when I end up doing it on the worksheet and showing you how to find it with yourself, I think it's going to go a little bit better. So we'll just skip through that. So right here, here's a great example, okay? These locations are all right on the lines, so we can probably make a good estimate just by looking at it. So we see these locations right here. Let's start with the Viking ship. Well, first thing you want to remember is that when you're using precise or absolute location, the first thing you're going to do is latitude, then longitude, okay? So that being said, the Viking ship, I see it's counting up. Latitude's north and south, so I'm going there first. 5, 10, 15. So it looks like we're at 15 degrees north of the equator. This would be our prime meridian here going up and down. So let's find our location here. I see it's at 5 degrees to the west to get back here. So the answer is going to be 15 north, 5 west. All right, the hurricane is this little spiral thing. We got a lot of those going on in the United States right now. Same thing, we're going to do latitude first. This time we're going south. So 5, 10, looks like it lines up right there. And then 5 degrees to the east. So it should be 10 degrees south, 5 degrees east. Okay, now feel free. I'm going to just whip through the rest of these. If you want to stop and try and guess them on your own, go ahead. You should pause the video, give it a try, and then as you go forward in just little second increments, it'll give you the answers to each of them. Okay, so we'll just do that. We'll go about 5 seconds apiece. All right. So now that we figured out how to find latitude and longitude when we are on a coordinate line, like these locations that you've seen back here, all of them are directly, nicely, and conveniently based on lines. That is not going to happen, especially when you're talking about real locations in the world. It is exceedingly rare. Most of the time, what's going to happen is you're going to find a location and it's going to be in between these two lines. And we need to try to figure out how we can estimate that so we can get a proper guess. Okay. So you're going to take the point that you are trying to find and you need to determine what the values or what the numbers are of the two lines. Okay. Now, depending on whether you're in the middle or more towards one or the other, that needs to factor in on what your estimation is. So is there a 100% right answer? No. Are there wrong answers? Yes, definitely. So if we look here, we're going to try and find the longitude and latitude. I realize I didn't capitalize latitude there. Maybe I'll fix that. Of Fargo, North Dakota, which is kind of close to where we are. And we've got it right up here. Oh, shoot. I just noticed that it's a little too big. So I'm actually going to go out here, make the picture just a tad smaller, without giving you guys and girls the answers. See if that helps. It does. Perfect. Okay. So first thing we got to find is latitude, right? Latitude goes north and south. So we need to find where we are at on the northern side here. The United States is in the northern hemisphere, right? So I see 40 here. I see 50 here. Now, if I had to guess, it's definitely not in the middle. And I think we could argue that it's definitely closer to 50 than it is to 40. So I feel like there's a couple guesses that we could come up with here. But if we're past halfway, that means we're above 45 and we're still below 50. So come up with whatever guess that you think. I have my own opinion, but that is what it is. And then down here, it's hard for me to see it, but I know what the map looks like. We're between 90 degrees west and 100 degrees west. Now, we're clearly closer to 100, right? Because that's this line right here. But we're also between that 90 and 100, and we're past halfway. So I would say you're between 95 to 100. So in that being said, if we have the answer, I think Fargo is probably 46 degrees north, 97 west. Now, if you had a worksheet or a quiz and you said 4798, that would be right? We don't have an exact answer. We can't because we're estimating. But if you told me like 56 degrees north and 120 degrees west, that's not right because that's not based on what we're actually seeing in front of us. Okay. So just really quickly, I actually forgot to grab my worksheet. So what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to plug in my document camera, and I'm going to go grab my worksheet. Thank you. And oh, yeah, there it is. Thank you, Brittany. Okay. So I have never done a Zoom video with my document camera before. So bear with me. I think I can handle this, but you never know when it comes to Mr. Plugin Technologies. So let's cross our fingers here. Okay. Okay, I think this is working right now. So let's roll with that. Oh no, wait, it's not. Because the worksheet should be underneath it. Let's try again. Hey, that looks better. All right, great. So in order to find this on a piece of paper, latitude and longitude, you really need two things besides the worksheet. Here's one of them. You need a pencil. Second thing is you need what we call a straight edge. Now, the best straight edge in the world, I think, is a ruler. That's what most people use for straight edges. I don't have one in front of me, and I guess what I want to show you is that anything that is rectangular shaped, you can use as a straight edge. So I'm actually going to use this old manila folder. It's kind of big and it's going to be bulky, and I'm sorry about that, but I think it'll help. Okay. So in order for us to find the latitude and longitude, let's pick a city. I'm going to pick, because I think it's probably the most difficult. We're going to pick Portland. Okay. So the first thing that we need to do is we need to try to find the latitude. So in order to find the latitude lines, what we're going to do is we're going to line our straight edge up with the city and then draw it until we get to where the latitude would meet up with our longitude line. So in other words, you're just drawing it straight out across until you hit another line that's going up and down. You can also draw it straight out this way. So your first line should look like that. And what we're really looking for is to see the space between here and here. So having it drawn out this way, I think will be very helpful for us. Now, we need to do the same thing for longitude. So we're going to draw it. And now this is an odd map. So the longitude lines are kind of slanted. But if, let's say it was a flat map, you could just draw a straight line. We're going to try and draw it parallel or going with the nearest longitude line here going straight down. So let's take a look. I think I'm going to line the straight edge up with that line so I know I'm actually drawing it parallel, right? See that? Now I'm going to move it over to the city of Portland. I'm going to put my pencil on there, and then I'm going to draw it straight down. And voila, look at that. We have a line that's probably right about here to try to find our longitude, and then we have a line right about here to help find our latitude. Okay, so just like with before, now we can try to make our estimations. So now that I look at this, if I see it, let's see if I can zoom in just a little bit. Okay, so if I'm looking at this point and I see it's between 40 and 50, I would say you could argue that it's almost right in the middle of the two. So I would think you could probably argue that this is about 45 degrees north latitude, I think. Make sure that we're doing our degree sign and that we're also adding the direction, okay? Heading down here, it's a little bit difficult because we don't have another line of reference, right? It goes to 120, so we are gonna have to try to figure out how exactly close is it to about 120 degrees west. It's pretty close, but it's definitely not like right next to it. So I'm gonna say, what do you think? 123 west? Because it's definitely more, as we see it's outside of it, but it's definitely not halfway. So let's say 120 degrees, or excuse me, 123 degrees west. Now, the cool thing with this worksheet is that what it's asking is for you to find coordinates and then use that to find the city. So let's see if there are any cities on this worksheet that are close to our 45 degrees north, 123 degrees west. By the way, one thing I want you to notice again, right? We have the comma there, we have the two coordinates split, but we have latitude first, longitude second. Do not forget that. Very important. All right, if I look at it, I see number 4 here, and that looks pretty close, right? It says 45 degrees north latitude, 122 degrees west. So if I were doing this as a worksheet, I would say that the answer is Portland. And if you know the state Portland is in, a lot of stuff going on there right now, be Portland, Oregon. Okay, so you, for your exit ticket, are going to have to do something that's very similar to this. And I will be honest with you, it is going to be a little bit difficult because you aren't going to have a piece of paper to do it on. But as you're going to see, the map should look very similar, and it's going to ask you to use a map and the coordinates to find a city. And then it's also going to give you a specific city and then ask you to tell me those coordinates. So remember, latitude first, longitude second. Weekly assessments posted at 4. I would argue that it'd be very important for you to get your exit ticket done first, but that'll be due tomorrow at 8, and then your weekly assessment will be due at tomorrow at noon. I think that's all I have for you today. So I'm sorry if it was a little bit longer video, but hopefully if you were able to, it's fun to learn how to actually do a skill that's based off these maps rather than just listening to things about it. So hopefully that was interesting for you. All right, well, if you were wondering, I'm actually filming this on the day that the Packers are playing the Vikings, and it is exactly 1 hour away from kickoff right now. So I know that I'm going to get my mind right, and I am ready to watch a super awesome, fun opening football game, and I guess we'll see what happens. All right. Have a good day, everybody.